Hi, it's Jeff Alpin, the Big Game Hunter, and welcome to Career Coach Office Hours. It is Tuesday, August, I'm just checking the date, 16, 2022. I do Career Coach Office Hours on Tuesdays and Fridays at 1 p.m. Eastern, where I take questions about job search, hiring more effectively, management, leadership, career transition, or helping people with advice about their job search. If you've got a question for me before the show, you can message it to me through LinkedIn. My page there is linkedin.com/IN/the Big Game Hunter. And you can also, of course, come on during chat and watch me there. I'll also mention my website, thebiggamehunter.us, is a place where you can schedule time for a free discovery call with me, where you check me out for the possibility of coaching, a coaching session with me, which I obviously charge for, my blog, which has more than 12,000 searchable posts that you can watch, listen to, or read that will help you. And you can find out about my courses, my books and guides. There's just a lot there that will help you. Also, you can subscribe to jobsearchtv.com on YouTube. It's also available as an app on Amazon. The content is also available on 300 plus streaming services via bingenetworks.tv. So you can watch me on your big screen set and see the lovely look that I have live and in person. And my podcast, No BS Job Search Advice Radio, is the OG in the job search space with more than 2,400 episodes over more than 11 years. The 12th anniversary is in November. Can't believe that. So again, 2,400 plus episodes over more than 11 years. You can listen to it in Apple Podcasts, watch it as a video podcast on Spotify, listen to it on Amazon Music, Google Play, wherever you listen to podcasts. And I'll also mention, connect or follow me on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/IN/the Big Game Hunter. I'll have that in chat in just one moment. Bear with me while I do the copy and paste. And I say connect or follow because on LinkedIn, you can have a creator account, which is what I do because I generate a lot of content to help people. And there are certain bonuses that you get for doing that. So you can follow me, or if you use the more button, there's a place where you can request a connection with me and also have access to my content, but more importantly, have access to my network as well, which has more than 28,000 first level connections. There are more people who follow me on top of that. So there's a lot of great material I release daily. I say daily because it really is daily, and you can learn a lot from it about job search, hiring, management, leadership, dealing with workplace issues, career transitions. I'll just simply say, follow me, connect with me. You'll get a lot from me, okay? So I've got a bunch of questions that have been sent to me in advance, and frankly, some carried over from last time because I just ran out of gas. It's really that simple. So the first question is, do large companies have burdensome hiring processes? Some do, some don't. The one that you're talking to might. And what does burdensome mean to you? I don't know the answer to that. Do they want to evaluate and assess people to make sure they're qualified, they fit their culture, they understand what the nature of the work is? Yeah, they do that because a mishire is expensive. It may involve a recruiter's fee. It certainly involves time wasted in the course of someone doing work for them. So I'll just simply say, yes, they do a lot of stuff to avoid a mishire. You may think that's burdensome. They just think that's smart business. I'll let you decide whether what I describe seems burdensome to you. Is it common practice for HR departments to um, troll job boards looking for current employees' resumes? Like I answered the last question, some do, some don't, yours might. I had a client who I remember so vividly um, called me up and said, "We don't have the rec open yet, but we're going to be looking for 2 program managers." Really? Why isn't the rec open yet? Because they found their resumes on job boards. So I know they're looking, and we'll have to be prepared to hire their replacements. They're both very good. We're talking with them about staying, but clearly they want to go. So we'll try and figure out if we can keep them, but we may not be able to. So they look. A lot of firms look. Are they sitting there all day long looking for resumes of their employees? No, not at all. So the long and the short of it is, firms do it. It's smart of them to do it because if you leave, they're caught, right? So why wouldn't they do it? So again, common practice, a lot of firms do it. A lot of firms don't. And it makes perfect sense, doesn't it? How do recruiters scan through so many resumes quickly? Tech is a big help to this. Their applicant tracking system may screen out people pretty quickly for them and allow them to not waste their time even looking at your resume. I know from my own experience when I did recruiting, so many people spammed resumes to me, it was ridiculous. The Purdue chicken plucker who was looking for the Java development role. I'd really like to do that job, she wrote, but what makes you qualified to do it? Notice in the job system it said requirements. I don't have any of that. Okay, good luck. I hit delete, of course. I never called because it was a waste of time. So part of this is the tech winds up saving time. In addition, you learn to look quickly for particular things in the resume that are important for that job. So, for example, in the system I worked with, it was an old technology, but the system that I used allowed me to um, import resumes into my database, would send me an email with each resume that allowed me to do a quick scan to see if there was something that vaguely fit the requirement of the position. From there, if I didn't see it right away, I used the word search feature and allowed Microsoft Word to search for it. If I didn't see it then, delete. It's really that simple. I was already in my system, but you learn. And recruiters learned how to spot things quickly. And it's not like the job hunter has to bold the face, underline anything. We develop eyes and senses that pick up on things. When I would scan a resume, it would be pretty simple. I'd see who the person was to see if I had any previous experience with them. And then I'd start scrolling down to see something in the current position that related to what my client was looking for. Then I went page down, which now is 2 page downs. If I don't see it by then, I'm not calling because in all probability, this person's experience with it either doesn't exist or is antique. And if I'm not sure for some reason, because I think they may have it, again, I'm hitting Control F in Microsoft Word to identify whether someone has the skills that my client is looking for. Otherwise, it's a waste of time. I like this one. And it also relates to an interview I did today, or I released today, where we talked about being proactive in your job search. It's an interview I did with Mike Podesto. And Mike is someone who owns a service called Find My Profession. Again, you can spot this on YouTube. I haven't released it yet on Binge or in the Job Search TV app. That'll probably come out tomorrow. But in the meantime, it's on YouTube. And let me just come back here for a second. Bear with me. What I would want to do is in going to a LinkedIn profile during an initial screening phone call, I would reach out to someone who fit a role with a client of mine. I was not gratuitously calling people or contacting people because they existed on LinkedIn. I wanted someone who would help me fill a job because they had a particular background that made sense. So I'd look for geography and skill set. I'd look for seniority level. I used a LinkedIn recruiter account, and in doing that, there were different filters I could use that allowed me to identify people for specific clients. So it could be the seniority of people, because there's a difference between being a programmer and being a program manager, a difference between being an accountant and a CFO. So I want to make sure they're at the right seniority level. LinkedIn doesn't provide compensation information, so that's not available. But keywords were appropriate, titles were important, geography was important, and LinkedIn did all the work from there. So I might look for people at a specific company because I knew that that firm employed that technology or that particular type of person professionally. So the higher level answer is I'm looking for someone who fits what my client is looking for. From there, I'm verifying it. I'm trying to determine whether they're qualified, might be interested, whether they consider other things. If they're not prepared to consider other things, I'm wasting my time. I'm not going to hypnotize someone to be able to do something that they don't want to do. So the goal becomes to assess people for their qualifications, whether I think my client and they would get along with one another, things along those lines that would allow me to fill a job with a client, okay? So that's the long and the short of what I would be looking for when I would try and fill a position. Let's go to the next one. If a new hire knows within 2 to 3 months that the job would be a bad fit for them, should they quit then or wait a full year to not look like a job hopper? Well, I don't think it's feasible or smart of you to torture yourself for a year. Now, this assumes that you're not a job hopper previously. If you are, you may need to tough it out a while longer. I wish it were different, but you don't want to establish that pattern of being a quitter. Quitters don't win. What they do is they give up, they move on to the next playpen. Not a good habit to develop. However, assuming that this is an aberration in your career, that you're someone who is a decent professional, competent, etc., then by all means, you should wind up leaving as soon as you can. Now, I'm just going to remind you, if you've got a question about job search, hiring, management, leadership, career transition, or want advice about a particular workplace issue, put your question into chat. Now, I'm also going to remind you or tell you if you don't know that next Monday, August 22nd at 1 p.m. Eastern, noon Central, 11 Mountain Time, 10 Pacific, Marty Gilbert and I are doing a live stream on LinkedIn. And we're going to take questions from people. We're also going to talk about the job market and much, much more. So on LinkedIn, I would just tell you the best way to do this is look for Marty Gilbert and Jeff Altman. That's the way to do the search so you can find us there. And it's going to be on for at least 45 minutes. Marty is the founder and chief executive officer for North Shore executive networking group out of Chicago. It's got almost 10,000 members, and over 500 of them landed jobs during 2021. Marty does great work. You know my background. Uh, I'm someone who worked in search for over 40 years and filled more than 1,200 full-time positions plus consulting assignments as a recruiter. So join us next Monday at 1 p.m. Again, do a search on LinkedIn. So again, that's August 22nd, 2022. If you're watching this at a later time, it's not going to exist. And what we're going to do is answer questions from people, talk about the job market, and much, much more. So join me there. And again, I'll just mention to you that my website has a ton of great information available. You can schedule time for a free discovery call, a coaching session, find out about my courses, books, and guides, and much more. Also, subscribe to jobsearchtv.com on YouTube, download it for Amazon, watch it on bingenetworks.tv, and subscribe to No BS Job Search Advice Radio, the #1 podcast in Apple Podcasts from Job Search. More than 2,400 episodes over almost 12 years that I've been providing the service. And lastly, connect or follow me on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/IN/the Big Game Hunter. I've got more questions. I'm telling you, more questions. So this one asks, let's just see, where is it? There you go. I didn't scroll down. Is it worth following up on an interview if there's no response? So just to be clear, I'm answering a question about you've already had the interview and you haven't gotten a response. Yes, by all means. They sometimes forget. They get busy. They're stalling for time because they have 4 other people to talk to after your interview. But yes, I would message them saying, I'll use an example here. I interviewed with so-and-so last Thursday, and great interview. I really liked the position. Hadn't heard back yet. Just wanted to find out from you what next steps were going to be like and when I might hear from you about next steps. Now, at the interview, what you should have done is ask, when might I hear from you about next steps? And then listen to their answer. They may say something like, I expect the early part of next week, or we'll be in touch with you when we have a decision, or we'll be back in touch with you if we're interested, or I expect you'll hear from us early part of next week, or I expect you'll hear from us early part of next week to schedule another interview. At that time, you'll be meeting with so-and-so, so-and-so, and so-and-so, and this is what each of them does. And notice how that last answer is really very specific. The more specificity you receive from them, the more likely it is that it's going to come to pass. The more ambiguous they are, they're less interested. So the long and the short of it is, you should verify their timeline during the interview, asking that question. However, you didn't do that. You were a little chicken, and thus you didn't ask. So yes, by all means, follow up. Got a question from James. I just wanted to ask you, what are the background check employers conducting on international employees? My employer didn't request for any reference from me. Rather, HR asked me for my international residence address, and only yesterday asked for my bachelor education certificate. Background may involve work-related things. It may involve financial things. So, for example, they may want to see if you've ever been arrested in the United States. They may want to see, convicted of a crime in the United States. Arrest, they legally can't ask. But they may want to see if there are financial indiscretions. For example, a bank may want to see if you had a bankruptcy. A bank may want to see Um, if you have a trading account, and thus whether it needs to be protected. That's independent of the fact that you're an international student or an international worker, I should say. And thus, they're trying to see whether you've had indiscretions in your past that would be problematic. Some people do. Some people who are domestic U.S. residents have these kind of problems, and they're engaging in a process that allows them to see very clearly uh, what your background is. And the only thing that concerns me about all this is your HR person or the HR person from this firm isn't apparently familiar with how to do the background check for an international hire. And that's why they're relatively late. Because I think you mentioned 2 weeks ago you were getting the offer pending the background check. And now this is surfacing 2 weeks later. So you might just contact them and say, is there anything else you might find out if you need, so that we can bring this to as speedy a conclusion as is possible. This way you'll avoid any sort of complications, delays, things along those lines that might delay you being able to start. Okay, James? And if you've got more, as you know, always feel free to put it in the chat. How do I become a professional sought after by recruiters? Well, you have to have required skills. Your LinkedIn profile has to demonstrate expertise. Your resume has to develop expertise. You may want to be interviewed on a podcast, write articles on LinkedIn, comment on other people's articles. But it starts off with you and your expertise and being able to demonstrate it and have that expertise in a field that's considered valuable by recruiters. They can fill a job with your expertise. Otherwise, you have a nice background, a pat on the head, nothing's ever going to come of this. So it involves being qualified. It involves being self-confident, having character, chemistry, charisma. Charismatic people always do better. In addition, that you care about your work. Got it? So you also want to be able to connect with people. So one of the ways to do this is talk to recruiters, not just simply when you're in job search mode. Stay connected with them so that they feel like they can talk with you and get referrals to fill positions, or that you're a qualified individual working for a great organization who has marketable skills. So that's a couple of different ways that you can do that. Okay. Let's move on. And I inadvertently clicked the wrong icon. Let's see if I've got this right now. Following a series of interviews for a leadership position. Oops, sorry. There we go. Following a series of interviews for a leadership position done by various levels of management, the feedback on why you didn't get the job suggests you should not be in a leadership role. Is this a sign that you should leave this company? So what I'm getting the idea is that this is an internal interview, not an external one. And as an internal interview, I think you have a better opportunity to get direct answers than an external person might. So when they're saying you should not be in a leadership role, are you in one now? If you are, wow, that's being very critical of the organization for having put you in one. I'd also ask them where they perceive the deficiency is in your background that would make them think that you should not be in leadership. Because the fact is, they're telling you very simply, you're not qualified to do the work that you're doing. You're not a leader. But obviously your organization has you working in that way. Quitting should not be an option. What you should be doing is getting answers to these kind of questions so that in this way you can learn from your experience and move on. Let's continue on. So with this one, the question is, what types of information that most recruiters must filter are they most distrustful of? Well, I'll just tell you from my own experience. A resume that smells BS. What makes it smell BS? You've done much too much given the amount of time you work there. That's problem number one. Something that seems incongruent. Like they go to your LinkedIn profile, they see certain things about your background, and it's not in your resume. Or vice versa. There are things in your resume not in your LinkedIn profile. So the result winds up being that they smell BS. They've got excellent BS detectors. You don't want to be in a situation where you're taking on work or a project where they distrust you, right? They don't want to distrust the person they have in a role. They want to feel like the problem is solved. So back up your play by demonstrating your fit. And then, barring that, move on. Here we go. How do you re-energize a sputtering job search? Well, let's start off with what makes it sputtering. Are you getting interviews? When I diagnose a job search and where it's breaking down, it starts off with, are you getting interviews? No, your resume sucks. Your LinkedIn profile sucks. Your resume and LinkedIn profile are incongruent. Or, you're not making a case for your candidacy. So that's the launch point. If you're getting to the screener round and you're not getting any further, these are people who are being paid to say yes to people. And yes, they screen people out, but they're paid a commission or a finder's fee if you get hired. So the fact that you present well is very important. And thus, what you're going to do is review your job history to be able to present yourself well. What else causes it to sputter? A lot of different things. And here, smell BS. Absolutely. We all can smell BS after a while, right? It's just one of those things we know that, we look at a resume, we look at a LinkedIn profile, and we go, I smell bullshit. Oh, I used that word. I apologize. So the long and the short of it is, to energize or re-energize a job search. Number one, practice interviewing. Assuming, I didn't finish the thing there. So if you're getting past the screener to the first real round, let's say it's the hiring manager, you're not getting further, you're not connecting with them. They're looking for competence, self-confidence, character, chemistry, charisma, that you care and that they connect with you because they want to trust someone. Because they don't want to hire someone and then start getting calls from their boss saying, what's up with Jeff? And you just want to roll your eyes and know that because they're telling you, I don't like this person. There's a problem I have with them. So then if you're getting past them or you're going directly to the people or person who's evaluating your skills, competency, you're not getting further, you re-energize it by reviewing what you did and how you went about doing it and how you're presenting that information, connecting the dots between what you've done and what they're looking for. Because without that, we're done. It's really that simple. This is going to be the last question for today. And again, I'm just going to remind you, if you've got more, put it into chat. I'd be very happy to answer your question. And let's continue on. For the last question. Gee, that's weird. I copied something. It didn't copy correctly. What does it mean when a recruiter says they have no available positions? Answer: it means that they have no available positions for someone with your kind of background. That means their clients are not trying to hire someone like you, someone with your experience. So the long and the short of it is, go find another recruiter. There's going to be some other recruiter, corporate or third party, that has positions for someone with your background. Go find them. It'll make all the difference in the world. So I'm just going to remind you, I'm going to be back on Friday with Career Coach Office Hours on the 19th at 1 p.m. Eastern. Next Monday, I'm on with Marty Gilbert at 1 p.m. Eastern, and we're going to be answering a lot of questions together for about 45 minutes. Marty is terrific. He's an ex-marketing guy and very knowledgeable, very talented. And I interviewed him for Job Search TV and No BS Job Search Advice Radio. It was a show, I believe it was called A Marketing Approach to Job Search. Very smart show. Watch it, again, at jobsearchtv.com. And I'll just remind you, for next time, you can always put your questions about job search, hiring, management, leadership, career transition, or that you're seeking advice about a particular workplace issue in the chat. You can always message it to me through LinkedIn at linkedin.com/IN/The Big Game Hunter. And my website, thebiggamehunter.us, has a ton of great information there that will help you. Now I'm going to come back here for a question from Damien. How accurate do you find salary.com and other salary sites? Somewhat accurate. Often the ranges are too broad. And thus people see, I'm just going to use a simple example. Program manager, 125 to 175. What does that tell you? The tighter the information is, the more likely it is to be reliable. It doesn't make someone qualified at that level, at the highest level. But it gives you a sense of what their ranges are. And then I might reach out to someone on LinkedIn who works at that firm in your job title and see what they think about that, because they have the actual insights. Often these surveys are received by HR departments who talk in terms of bands. And with bands, you may not get the best information. So some of it's better than others. Sorry, I wish I could be more specific, but I think that that'll give you a flavor for how to approach this. Get a sense of the range on salary.com, Glassdoor, wherever, and then from there, circle back to people who work for that firm to get a sense of whether that seems accurate to them in their conversations with other people. And if they're disappointed in what they're earning vis-a-vis what those bands say or what the website says, they may go, I'm getting out of here, and create a job for you. So they are always imperfect guides completed by HR when they have a few minutes to be able to provide information. Okay, so continuing on, and again, Damien, if you want more, just put it in the chat. I'll try and cover it here. My website has a ton there, including my courses, which you can rent or buy, my books and guides. There's a lot there to help you. Also, subscribe to jobsearchtv.com on YouTube. Download it on Amazon. There's an app on Amazon. You can watch it on bingenetworks.tv, which streams to 300 plus streaming services. You'll get a lot more than me on Binge Networks, and a lot of it's very good. And I'll just remind you to subscribe to No BS Job Search Advice Radio in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, Amazon Music, wherever you listen to podcasts, you can do that there. Lastly, connect with me on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/IN/The Big Game Hunter. I'm just going to close out with Damien saying thanks for the insights. You're very welcome. I'll be back Friday with more. In the meantime, I hope you have a terrific day. And most importantly, be great. Take care.